Sadnam. We are Jen and Ramtin from Heart Center Revolution.
Our intention with this podcast is to share the best of Kundalini yoga and conscious living with you so you can live a more heart-centered life. Satnam, and welcome to episode 37 of the Heart Centered Revolution podcast. In this episode, we are going to get a little bit of a deep dive into the mind-body connection and kind of talk about how the physical body, the emotional body, the energetic body, how they all work together to give you information. And then I'm going to share my story of how I used, listening to my body to help me overcome a health challenge. And then towards the end of the episode, I will lead you through a pranayam to help gain clarity and alertness. And so this will be published while most of us are still doing shelter at home, or at least in the US we are. And it's easy to kind of get tired and I don't know about you, but like my mind's been really foggy. Like it's hard to focus, especially for me in the afternoons and evenings. There's just kind of a lot of energy, a lot of emotion to be processed, and it's tiring. And so this pranayam can help with that. It can help you get some mental clarity and alertness. Like if you need to get a project done, get some work done, or just have enough energy and alertness to watch the kids. I don't know. But this pranayam can help you sharpen your mind a little bit. I also want to give my common, precursor that Ramtin's class was recorded prior to COVID-19. And he actually talks quite a bit about illness and when you get sick, what's going on with your body. And again, it's a little tone deaf because obviously, like I said, this was recorded prior to COVID-19. But I don't think there's ever been a better time to discuss our mind-body connection and kind of when something physically goes wrong with our mind, what that means. And I'm not talking about COVID-19 specifically, like being ill with that, but it's more about when we're afraid in this heightened emotional state, it puts our body at risk. And so this is a really good time for us to stay connected with our body and not out of fear for being sick, but more out of listening to what's going on. Is there an imbalance? And now I'm giving away what's in the episode. So I'll stop talking about that now. And in this class, Ramtin was actually having like a question and answer, like conversation with the students. And so I edited the students out to the best of my ability for their privacy. So if there are a couple like audio jumps, just know that that's what's going on, that Ramtin asked a question, a student answered, and then he kind of summarizes what they said and adds his point of view. And so you're not missing any content by that jump. I'm just protecting the student's privacy. All right, let's get into it.
Yeah, what does it mean for you to create a relationship with your physical body? Eating healthy, definitely, absolutely. That's a huge one, right? What else? Yeah. Being in tune, like you said. So having that intuition, right? And again, defining what that is, paying attention that, okay, something is coming along, right? Before it gets really bad, right? It's your body tells you when you catch a cold or a flu, you don't, start coughing right away, or you don't have the high fever right away. You feel a little out of sort. So your body is communicating with you right there, right? Your energy is a little low, it's just like you get up in the morning and your head feels a little foggy, and maybe you sneeze in the beginning, but then you feel it more and more and more. Runny nose, all that stuff that comes. So your body is talking to you, letting you know. So your body tells you to rest, simply, as simple as that. So we take that at a very surface level sometimes, I have a cold. But the symptoms, we focus more on the symptoms, and I have to stop the sneezing. I have to stop the pain. Making that a priority as opposed to what is really this pain is telling me. Okay? So starting that communication, because your body is communicating with you all the time. Are you receiving it? When there's a communication, there's a sender and a receiver. So your body is sending you that message all the time. How are you interpreting it for yourself? What are you doing with that message? So thinking of ourselves not just being this physical body,
Right.
and more than that, when we receive these messages, the signals, there's a pain, discomfort, nervous system not strong enough, whatever is going on, our brain processes what the rest of the glands in our body, the parts of our body, sense to it, and that becomes more clear now in our consciousness based on our previous conditioning, learning. Some of it is more intuitive, some of it is just what we learned from the books and we heard from others. All that doesn't matter. The information, that data, stays within our system, within our subconscious mind now. We associate certain, okay, I have this, this pain or this ache, then, this means I have a headache, or I have this. And this headache could interpret as whatever it is, that possibilities. So when we have a certain pain or this ease in our body, right? The body is not, the energy is not moving fluently, it's just this ease in our body. That's how we could interpret that for ourselves, Then we look at it energetically, emotionally, and physically. And our approach to healing the body, so to speak, is way different now. Is a warning sign, but is not that something is wrong in a way that you are now, you're broken. It's not that. Is that there's something out of alignment, something not in harmony with your total self, your totality, who you are. So let's bring it back into harmony.
Wow, just in those couple minutes of discussion, there's kind of a lot to unpack, and this is one of my favorite subjects. This mind-body connection is one of my favorite subjects, and so I'd like to talk more about that. But as Ramtin ended and he was talking about how we bring our body into harmony, again, I feel like every episode we say the same thing. We talk about this, this part of being human, this power that you have as a spiritual being having human experiences. And the key to it is doing Kundalini yoga. And it seems like Kundalini yoga is the answer to everything, which is funny. There are, of course, other ways to achieve these goals. But what Ramtin and I have learned through experience, and what we hope we're communicating through this podcast, is that there are so many different, subtle, and varied benefits and ways in which a Kundalini yoga practice enhances your life. And one of those is this increased mind-body connection, this increased awareness of what's going on in your physical body. And as Ramtin's saying, it's not just about symptoms. It's not just about knowing, oh, I'm feeling tired, I might be getting sick, so that you can plan ahead or whatever. It's way deeper than that. It's being able to ask your body, what do these symptoms mean? What is this illness here to teach me? It's going under that initial surface layer. And that's something everyone is capable of doing, but with a Kundalini yoga practice, you get better skilled at it. Actually, it's not even that you get better skilled at it. It just becomes easier because you're more aware. You're more aware of the subtle things that are going on for you. But I want to elaborate a little more on this subject in a couple of ways before we get into the pranayam. So Ramtin gave you the example of being sick, like having a flu or a cold, but that's really the more extreme, or I guess that's in the middle. So I would consider this the way your body talks to you is on, and what's the word I'm looking for, is on a spectrum. And so at the very subtle end, you can have little flashes of you feel like a chill across your skin, and that might be related to your intuition. You might feel a flutter or a warmth in your heart. You might feel some tension or tightness in your stomach. And so these are very subtle ways that your body is talking to you. And it's not even a reflection. It's just your body is sending you messages. Your intuition is sending you messages. And then as you have emotions, right, those sensations in your body get stronger. So when you feel grief, your whole chest tightens up. When you feel anger, you get hot. When I feel angry, I start crying, which is the weirdest reaction. I know I'm not alone in that, but it's really frustrating, as I digress a little bit here, to get mad and then start crying. But it's effective because it kind of disarms the person. If you're in an argument, it kind of is disarming for them. But anyways, besides the point. So then that's kind of like a little bit more tangible. Your body is communicating the emotion. So it's a little less subtle than like, the goose pimples on your skin when you hit intuition. Or when the hair stands up on the back of your neck because you get excited about an idea that is for you. And then the next level is like emotions. And so your stomach gets tight, or your heart flutters, or you get hot in reaction to an emotion. And then I think the next step would be kind of a chronic emotion. And so if you've been holding down a feeling for a long time, or if you have emotions that aren't expressed, then you'll get tension in your body. Or if you're just not moving your body and you're being stagnant, literally and physically, then you'll get tension and tightness in your shoulders, in your lower back, in your hips. We've all kind of got it in different places. And so that's another way your body is talking to you. It's telling you you're not moving, either physically, emotionally, energetically, like something isn't moving. And so your body is tightening around it to try and protect you. And then I think the next level would be those kind of illnesses and ailments that come and go. So like a flu or a cold, they're temporary, they go away on their own. That those things have a different type of message to tell us. I know for me, I used to get a couple years ago, like when I would get the cold or flu, I would know that it was because I was not taking care of myself. Like I was pushing so hard, like working out, going to work full time, working on Heart Center Revolution. Like I just was go, and feeling stressed about it. I think there's a way to be go, and still be in the flow, which is way more fun. And so I used to, when I got sick or the flu, knew that it was because I was pushing too hard, and my body was literally just like, you need a rest, and you're not going to rest unless we get sick. So let's get sick, lay in bed for 3 days, and then you kind of reboot. But an interesting thing started happening a few years ago is I would get sick when I hadn't been pushing myself too hard. And so I kind of had to, again, use that connection with myself, do some self-inquisition about, okay, like, why did I get sick this time? And it's not from a judgment of like, why me? Or what did I do wrong? Or even the assumption that there's something wrong with being sick. If you're sick, it's there to show you something. It's there to bring an imbalance. It's there to bring something to your eyes, to your intuition, to bring a lesson, to bring a gift into your life. And so assuming that something is wrong, meaning like it shouldn't have happened, kind of puts you energetically in a place that doesn't allow you to see the gift and doesn't allow you to see the way forward. Okay, so that's like temporary illnesses, colds, flus. You could even put injuries there. These are ways our body talks to us. They're trying to tell us what's out of balance. And then on the most extreme would be, chronic or terminal illnesses. And these are often where emotions or things have been stored in the body chronically over years and years and years. And it's like these imbalances come to us spiritually and we ignore them. They come to us emotionally and we stuff them down. They come to us physically in like smaller symptoms. So you might have some digestive issues. You might have some difficulty sleeping, low energy. You ignore that and don't address it. And then things will come through as more chronic or terminal illnesses. And that's, again, it's just like your body or your spirit or the spirit is ratcheting up the attempts to kind of get your attention and to show you the lesson or the way forward to your next stage of spiritual growth. And as hard as it is to deal with and to go through, sometimes the way you're supposed to deal with your next stage of spiritual growth in this lifetime is coming to terms with a chronic or terminal illness, or even coming to terms with your own death. I mean, I think that's a big part of all of our spiritual growth, is coming to terms with our own death and the death of the people that we love. But for those of us who get a terminal illness, it's kind of comes, there's no way to avoid it. And that can be a great burden and also a great gift. It can be both. And I do realize as I'm talking now that, in the time of COVID-19, this conversation topic might hit a little close to home for a lot of us. But death and disease and illness are not new, and they're not going anywhere. And they are difficult to accept. The grief process can be very challenging and overwhelming and painful, and it can be enlightening and give you freedom. Like, it can be all of the things that you allow it to be. And so I considered editing out this portion because it might hit close to home, but my intuition is that because it hits close to home, it's a better time than ever to our connection to our physical body, with illnesses in that physical body, and how we relate to that. All right, so kind of getting back on track with what I was trying to say before is that I used to feel like when I got sick, it was because I wasn't taking care of myself and my body was run down and just needed a rest. And then more recently, I've felt that when I get sick, like a cold or a flu, it's more like part of my spiritual growth. It's been really interesting. It almost always happens at a time when I'm going through a deep learning. And it's almost like my physical body, by getting sick, again, it's still forcing me to like stay in bed, but it's almost like it's preventing me from maintaining the momentum or habits that I had before I was sick. And so it's like my body is conspiring with my spirit to give me 3 days to just stay in bed, watch TV, do whatever I need to do, like stop the momentum from before I was sick, and then come out of it and I can build new habits and build new momentum. And now I could completely be projecting, because this is how I view, my current illnesses, or when I get cold and flu now. But I see a parallel in the world of what's going on with COVID-19. So regardless of the origins of the virus, or, the intentions of the people who are putting, all the responses in place, like there's much debate about that I don't want to get into. So regardless of your stance on any of that, there also could be a bigger picture purpose of us all slowing down, evaluating what's important, stopping the momentum of just continuing to do things the way they've always been done because they've been done that way, and having an opportunity to re-engage with ourselves, with our communities, and with our work in a new, more conscious way. And having had things that we thought were givens or priorities or just the way things had to be, really evaluating all of those and choosing how to move forward. And so rather than focusing on the conflict and the debates, I would like to see all of us look at, okay, like this is the pause we took. How do we want to re-engage? What do we want to do differently? And so it's like a macrocosm of the microcosm of like how I feel about when I get cold or flu now. I kind of do the same thing of, okay, this has been a pause. Like when I reestablish routine and habits and momentum, what are my priorities? What do I want that to look like? All right. We're almost to the pranayam. I just want to share one more story with you that kind of illustrates this mind-body connection. And if you are dealing with an illness, I can share a story of my illness, and maybe it can inspire you or kind of help your mind have less conflict and polarity about how to approach it. Okay, so a few years ago, probably 4 years ago now, I started having symptoms of interstitial cystitis, which is like painful bladder essentially. So your bladder gets really inflamed, and it can even have like sores on the inside of it. And that inflammation causes you basically to feel like you have to pee all the time. And it's really distracting. It can be painful. Thankfully, mine wasn't painful. It was more agitating because I felt like I had to pee. Literally, I would pee, and then I felt like I had to pee like by the time I was done washing my hands. It was so annoying, and it made it hard to go to sleep. So that's my sad story about my interstitial cystitis. It's also chronic. And so most people who have it, they get it on and off throughout their life, like an autoimmune disease. But I don't think it's really considered a disease. It's more like a condition or a thing that women, it tends to be women tend to get. And I'll tell you my theory as to why when I'm done explaining kind of how I treated it. And so as Ramtin was saying, like there's this mind-body connection. And then we both talked about these different levels, right? There's like the more gross physical, and then subtle emotional, subtle energetic. And so when I started having these symptoms, and I was reading that like people have this for the rest of their lives and it's severe on and off, I just knew when I read that wasn't going to be the course of my illness. I knew that there was a way to address it, partly because of my yoga training. And I had this understanding of like all these layers of being, and that I couldn't just treat it on one layer. So I looked at it from all the different levels. And so on a physical or more like Western medicine level, like they don't have a good treatment. So the side effects to the treatment that they have in my case would have been worse than the symptoms I was having, because my symptoms were mild to moderate and not severe. And so the medical treatment was not a question for me. However, there's over-the-counter that can help address the symptoms. And so that was kind of how I dealt with the physical body. But I didn't want to stop there, because I knew that if I only address the physical, then this will be a chronic condition. I will be dealing with these symptoms for the rest of my life if I don't address the underlying, more subtle, emotional, energetic pieces. And so then I also, to deal with the energetic, I went to Reiki sessions and had them kind of clear my chakras, open up the blocks. When she was doing those sessions, there was a lot in my second chakra that kind of needed to come out. And then I also went to acupuncture, which really helps the energetic flow move through your body and clear whatever's blocked or imbalanced. And that was an incredible help. I mean, I was going 3 times a week for like 3 months, which was a big commitment, but I was serious about not having this be a chronic condition. But I knew that even with those layers, I wasn't addressing the underlying like emotional issue, like the thing that stored this imbalance in my body to begin with. And so I also would, especially at night when I couldn't sleep, I would put my hands over my bladder. I would talk to it. I would ask it what it needed to heal. I would ask it what it was trying to tell me and show me. And I would get these deep emotions of like resentment and anger that had been stored in my body for decades. Like from before I started doing yoga, like from when I was a child and a teenager, and I just didn't have the skill set to deal with those emotions. And then also as a woman, we are conditioned not to express our anger. And that anger gets stored in your bladder. That's why when you're pissed off when you're angry, that pissed is like, shows us that connection to our bladder. So that emotional piece came up, and then I prayed and asked for angels' help and for guidance and intuition as to how to heal myself. And so with this layered approach, my symptoms cleared up, like 80% of my symptoms cleared up within a couple weeks. And then it did take a few months for them to go away completely. Not a few, it took me like 6 months for them to go away completely. But I could function after a couple of weeks. Because I was getting to the point where I was considering, going on disability because it was really hard to work. And it took 6 months. And I think I found out later that I had inflammation like under some of my dental work. And so I think that is why it didn't heal as quickly, because my immune system was kind of fighting two fronts at the same time. Yeah. So that's my story about interstitial cystitis. And so I share this just to bring to light that our body talks to us in many different ways. And there's all these different layers at which we can interact with it. And then if you are dealing with a health issue, that I think especially in the spiritual and yoga communities, there's this like Western versus Eastern versus like spiritual holistic. There's like three separate things. And I don't see them even as separate. I see that they're all dealing with this same imbalance, but on like a different plane of energy, like a different level of subtlety of energy. And while this was my experience, I think that there are a lot of people, like I don't want anyone listening to this that has a chronic condition to think that it's like so easy to fix or have the symptoms go away for everybody. Sometimes a chronic condition isn't really meant to be healed in someone's life because it's there to serve a purpose and teach a lesson. We're all on different paths, but if you haven't considered addressing an imbalance in this multi-layered approach, I would really recommend trying it. Or looking at like, have I done the physical work? Have I done the energetic work? Have I done the emotional work? And if you've done all those things, then you can rest assured that you've done your part and that it's just a matter of continuing to listen to your body about what these symptoms are teaching you, what they're showing you, and what you need. And then one last anecdote, Ramtin had mentioned that like these experiences get stored in our subconscious mind or subconscious memory. And sometimes that can be a really good thing. Like I had a miscarriage a couple months ago, and it was interesting because I had the miscarriage and then it was like 10 to 14 days later, I started to have symptoms of interstitial cystitis again. And my first reaction was like, WTF? Like I just went like, well, how much more do I need to go through in 2 weeks? But then since I had already had that experience and I knew what the cause of interstitial cystitis was for me, I knew that I needed to go back to acupuncture. I needed to adjust my diet in the short term. And I knew that I had unprocessed, unexpressed anger. And so I tapped into the anger around my miscarriage. I found a Kriya for releasing anger. And I did it, 2 or 3 times a week for about 6 weeks. And the symptoms went away within a matter of a couple of weeks. But then on the physical level, like it wasn't all emotional and energetic. On the physical level, the hormone shift from the miscarriage and then the anesthesia and the antibiotics and stuff from the procedure. And then I had an allergic reaction. And so I was taking antihistamine or whatever you take for allergic reactions. So my body also was just like not able to process all of that. And so that also, I think, affected my immune system and led to the symptoms. So I guess my point is, yes, mind-body connection is like super important, but there are many layers at which to look at these things, and they're not mutually exclusive. They all work together in harmony. Like even when there's imbalance, they're all contributing. And then just as a little follow-up, because every time I mention it, I get, messages of concern. Ramtin and I are doing well after the miscarriage. Obviously it was hard to go through, but our practice and our community really helped us kind of process it and accept it and move forward and trust that it was, all for the betterment of our lives, even when we don't know why or how. All right. I had not planned to say that much, but it comes from the heart, and so I will keep it in the episode. But let's transition to our pranayam. Our pranayam today is segmented breath for clarity and alertness. And so, like I said, if your mind is foggy and you're wanting to focus, this is a great one to do. And it's another segmented breath pranayam, like the one we did last episode. And so I'll go over the instructions and then I'll kind of lead you into the pranayam. So we're going to break up our breath, both the inhale and the exhale, into 4 equal parts. And so it's like having 4 sniffs, or it'll sound that way. So the inhale will sound like, and the exhale will be 4. It's important to keep in mind, you don't want to keep like your cheeks really stiff. You don't want to squish or like hold your nostrils too tight. This segmenting should really come from your abdomen in your chest. So you're kind of halting the breath there and not halting the breath with your face. And it should feel like a pretty relaxed, sniff or puff, I think is a little gentler word, like a little 4 puffs of air in and out. And you want to be relaxed with the breath. So we'll take a few, regular long deep breaths, and then we'll get into the pranayam. So go ahead and bring yourself up, sitting up nice and tall. Heart is open, shoulders are up, back and down. You can rest your hands in your lap or put them in Gyan Mudra. Chin is tucked gently down and back, so you feel the opening and the elongating in the back of your neck. You can close your eyes if you haven't already. Eyes focused at the third eye if you like to have a focal point. And let's start by just taking 2 long, deep breaths. So exhale completely. Inhaling, filling up the belly, ribs, upper chest and clavicle area. Exhaling, clavicle down, chest down, navel to spine. Inhaling, belly, ribs, and chest. Exhaling, chest, ribs, and belly. Let's begin the segmented breathing, inhaling in 4 equal parts. Exhaling 4. Inhaling 4. Exhaling 4. Keeping this pattern going, making sure that you still get a full inhale and complete exhale, even though you're doing it broken into 4 parts. If you'd like a mantra to focus on, you can inhale Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. Exhale Wa, He, Gu, Ru. Inhale Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. Exhale Wa, He, Gu, Ru. Continue going at your own pace. keeping up your breathing pattern. Checking your face, your cheeks, your shoulders, your abdomen. Is there anything you can relax? Let the breath almost come up from within you instead of being forced. One more, inhaling 4, exhaling. Inhale deeply, long, filling up the body. Suspend the breath gently, feeling the energy going up the central channel of the body, out the crown of the head, eyes at the third eye. Exhale. Let's do one more like that. Inhaling deeply, suspending gently. Exhale. Beautiful. Keeping the eyes closed and the body still, let the breath return to its regular pace. Take note of your mental, emotional, and spiritual state, and note any shifts that occurred as a result of this pranayam. And blink your eyes open. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us on this 37th episode of the Heart-Centered Revolution podcast. We so appreciate your support. If you've been enjoying the podcast and you'd like for more people to be aware of it, please go into iTunes and you can rate and review the podcast. And that helps iTunes show it to more people. It helps them know that it's something that people like. And so they show it to more people. And then Ramtin and I have a very special request. So we have a couple of ideas for things to do with the podcast, mostly to help there be a little bit more of like a community aspect and some connection. And so if you are willing to do like a 10-minute phone conversation with one of us about our ideas, because we'd love some feedback before we get things rolling, please send me an email at jen@heartcenteredrevolution.com and just let me know you're interested or willing to do a little, 10-minute conversation to give us some feedback about some of the ideas we have coming forward. Because we're really excited. I think we have some pretty good ideas, but we would like some feedback from you guys. So I think we'll do, the first 5 or 10 people to email. So please email me as soon as you hear this if you're interested at jen@heartcenteredrevolution.com. It would really help us out. Thanks so much. We love you. Sat Nam.